Today I will have a look at one more speaker from the Flatoberfest 2022. And I must warn you, this will be really stupid.
First of all, I want to thank all my patrons, members, donors and subscribers. All of you are important for me. Thank you very much.
Flatoberfest is a gathering for flat earthers that are arranged by KarenB. The speaker we will have a look at today is Ben Balderson. And before I start the video, I must warn you once again, this is really stupid.
Hail! Welcome to Flatoberfest. I'd like to, the trip here was pretty rough. It started out with our dog getting attacked by a Belgian Malinois.
I hope all is well with your dog.
And so a couple of years ago, I don't even remember how long now, a guy named L.C. King, some of you guys might have heard of him, he contacted me, and at the time I was going around and talking a lot about alchemy and how actual lab alchemy works, and comparing that to some of the different philosophical things that they've been putting out there, because as time has stretched by and less people are doing the actual lab work, which is what the philosophy is derived from, the more that the philosophy veered away from the reality of what's going on in the lab. So I had been talking about that, and Lucas contacted me, and he had been working on this concept where the world is an entire battery.
So the world is a battery. Do you have any kind of evidence for that statement?
And some of the things that he said just really caught my attention, and I immediately started talking to him. And him and I have been working on this somewhat, some together, some separately, ever since then. So I'm calling it the biochemical electromagnetic flat earth. Not exactly a catchy name, but
Biochemical electromagnetic flat earth. I have made search for those terms and I haven't found any information about that. The closest I found was bioelectromagnetics or bioelectromagnetism. Perhaps the explanation is that you and your friend made this up all by yourself.
But so here's a fairly basic representation of what we're looking at with it. Now, when you're looking at it here, we live basically where this line is in the center. Underneath, there's going to be a fairly similar bubble to up top. That's where, when I'm talking, I don't necessarily call it a flat earth, but we live on a fairly flat plane, the plane of manifestation. So we live on this plane of manifestation. So where so many of us recognize the dome above, there's also the same basic shape underneath as you see with the toroid, and when you're living on the plane of inversion instead of a plane of manifestation, which is what I would call it from an alchemist point of view, that it's going to be the same basic shape. So in this, when we were originally looking at it, the world is then basically a galvanic cell. And so the galvanic cell, the way that's going to work here is you've got a positive cathode and a negative anode. Now, the positive cathode is going to be a slightly more stable metal than the negative anode is going to be. because the two are gonna, this is the way they're chemically gonna have to work, okay? Then you have what they call a half cell, so you can see that very mild line in between the two electrodes. And so what that's expressing is there's a different solution on the positive side as opposed to the negative side, and we'll get into that in just a minute.
So this is how the world works according to this fool. Oh dear.
So there was an entire thing where since the late 1800s, early 1900s, there's been a whole lot of inversions put into things. And when I started really looking at older cosmologies that predate that, and it's funny how things from that period are always called ancient, but when you look at things that are actually ancient and predate that, almost every cosmology has the sun as feminine and the moon as masculine. That as an alchemist, each of the luminaries is represented by a different metal, and there's very good reasons for that. Biologically, as a human, it works that way. The light that they express, the light spectrum, this is how we know things like the moon is silver. So the sun is gold and the moon is silver as far as an alchemist goes. And
the sun is gold and the moon are silver. Oh dear, how stupid can a person be? Oh, no, there are no limitations for stupidity.
And then we have Mercury, which is Mercury, pretty on the nose with that one. Mars is iron, Venus is copper, your solar plexus, Jupiter, that's tin, and then classically the Saturn is the other one that's really known, and that's lead.
A lot of nonsense, but a question. So the planets are physical objects then?
So again, we're going to have to get back into that in just one second. So the moon is actually silver particles, and part of why the moon is the one that really looks solid is because as those silver particles soak in radiation, the radiation makes bonds in between these silver particles, which makes it look rather solid. And they actually use this same technology in cameras and in solar panels, the way this silver is soaking in this radiation and doing this. So it starts forming these bonds that look rather solid. It's not really solid, but it rather looks it. And so the moon sits and soaks in this radiation. And then once it's full of this radiation, and now it's actually subject to degrading, because when it was in its smallest particle, the smallest particles don't break apart, or else they just become separate pieces. So it's at its smallest place. Well, now it's all bound together and it's subject to degradation now, where we're talking about it separates into this ion and this electron. So then the one goes over and shoots over to the sun and impregnates the sun, and you have this entire gestation period where the ion is then going to go over and meet up with the electron. And at that point, then this energy, because we all know from fairly mainstream science that fusion energy is much greater than fission energy, so that the spark of energy that was released when the particle was broken apart at the anode is not near the energy that is derived from when it's put back together over at the cathode.
He sounds like a wits it gets it, a lot of words with no sensible meaning. He have no evidence for his claims, he only make things up. We don't live in a world that is a big battery. The sun is not gold. The moon is not silver. All of this is nonsense, but he managed to prove one thing. Flat earthers pay money to visit this Flatoberfest and listen to this nonsense, and they think it's great. To do that, you must be a big fool, a reality and science denying fool. He was speaking for 1 hour and 18 minutes, but I will stop it here, because the rest of it is the same nonsense. I leave a link in the description if you want to listen to it all, but I can't understand why any sensible person want to listen to this crap. Once again, I want to thank you all who helped me help Ukraine. So far, 11 drones have arrived in Ukraine and 2 big power banks, and sadly 4 drones have been shot down. And this morning 1 more drone and a power bank arrived, and it will be sent to Ukraine today. So a big thank you to all helping me helping Ukraine. If you want to help with drones and power banks to Ukraine, you donate using PayPal links in the description. Otherwise, all revenues from the channel, ads, memberships, super chats and so on goes to humanitarian aid to Ukraine. And we have passed 12,500 euros sent to Ukraine. That was all I had for you today. I hoped you liked it. I will be back tomorrow. I don't know if it will be a live or a video, because I have a quite nasty cold and I losing my voice sometimes. So I'm not sure yet if I'm able to go live. Otherwise, it will be a video. Have a nice day. See you soon. Bye.